Now, what if I told you that doing everything they told us to do is exactly why so many people are struggling today? Go to school, get a job, work hard, stay loyal, retire. Yet millions of people are working harder than ever and still can't afford the life they thought you had. So tonight we're asking a question that might make some people uncomfortable. And that is the American dream still alive, or has the game completely changed? I'm going to say that again. Is the American dream still alive, or did the game completely change? Talk it out with D&D. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talk It Out with D&D. I am Denise Murray, and I'm joined with my amazing co-host, Denise Day, Miss Day all day. And tonight we are talking about something that affects every single person that's watching this live. For decades, we have been told that there was a formula for success, and that formula for success was go to school, get a job, work hard, buy a house, retire comfortably. But today, many people are doing all of those things and still feel like they have barely keeping their heads above water. Mm-hmm. So tonight, we're asking, has the American dream changed? Are people working harder than they ever, but getting less in return? What role do inflation, debt, technology, AI, business ownership, and even financial education play in our ability to build wealth today? And most importantly, what can we do about it? Drop your city and state in the comments and let us know. And answer this question, do you think the American dream is still alive? Let's talk about it. Hey, Miss Day.
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah, so that is what I've been wanting to know. We always had that where we get told growing up, go to school, get a job. And that's what most people are doing. However, when you're growing up, what does success actually look like? Most people would say graduate from school, get a stable job, buy a home, raise a family, retire comfortably. But, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that this is really, really a critical topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, because from my generation, I'm a baby boomer. I'm in the 60s, 63 over here. So that was the mentality when I was growing up. Just what you just laid out. Graduate from high school, go to college, buy a home, and then work 20, 25, some people 30 years, and then retire, and hopefully you set up properly, right? But I think where the gaps came in there, for even my generation, nobody taught us about investing, right? Nobody really sat me down and talked to me about investment properties, investing in the stock market. They didn't even teach that when I was in school. They wasn't even teaching us how to manage a checkbook, okay? I learned that my first ever job at 14 when I started getting checks. You better figure out how to deal with a bank, right? But I'm just saying, but then the reality that kicked in was I decided not to go to a 4-year college. I started going to community college because I knew a 4-year college was going to put a burden on my mom. Although I was an A student, my school counselors didn't even talk to me about scholarships and how to get money. Or I wish I would have went to a HBCU, on scholarship or something to that effect. But I didn't know that. I went to a university there where I was, but that didn't work out because it was going to be very expensive. I had a $600 scholarship. That didn't hardly pay for my books. Right. So I ended up in another route, and praise God, I ended up working for the government. But okay, back on point. If you're not taught something and you didn't know something and the generation before us was not taught that thing, then how will you learn it? So unless some of us had good mentors in our lives that maybe knew about business, but can you believe I didn't understand and learn about the stock market till I was 40 some years old,
Mm-hmm.
working in the government, and my boss taught me about the S&P 500. That's when I started investing in a 401k on my job. But
Okay.
and my boss talked to me about it. But if you don't have the knowledge, then you're gonna be short. It's gonna be some shortfalls. And the sad part about that is that we didn't have that leg up in this game. That's what saddens me. And we'll get into the housing and all of that. I know we got a great agenda here tonight, but I want to talk about that and what I saw my mom doing at a later age, and that's what I ended up doing. So I'm in my second home now, but hell, I'm 63.
Right.
So I hope that I feel like we got the short end of the stick, and my generation, and then this generation, the corporate structure just got them pinned down. And to me, getting into a college where I said, my nephews went to Morehouse, twins. My nephew, they came out, each of them, with $100,000 in debt from school. So it kind of sets you up to get in debt. So now you on the rat race. You paying credit cards and student loans, and they want to keep you trapped. Okay.
Now,
So
before you finish, I'm sorry. We got to do some technical stuff here. I'm not able to get you on the TikTok for some reason. Your name is not pulling up. So people are hearing you, but they're not seeing you. Hi, everyone on TikTok, if y'all there. And I know I got y'all here on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, but I just want to make sure that we're on all the platforms where they can see you as well. Because on here, they're not seeing you. They only can hear you.
let me see, because I'm pulling up the TikTok, and then I was trying to get you, because you on the UBC, UBE LLC.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, and see, I'm just seeing the UBE. Oh, the LLC. Okay, not the TV, but UBE LLC.
Yes.
Okay, and doggone it. And so then I should be able to click the live button, and I'm not seeing it. This is weird. No, even on your UBE LLC, this all I'm showing. That's weird. Now let me go back to the video part. On your video,
I was trying to see if I can invite you, but it's not letting me invite you. But guess what? That's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share. I'm going to flip my screen around so we can actually.
Oh, they can look at it from StreamYard. Okay.
I can see it from the computer just because I'm not able to get it on. So let me see if that will work that way.
TikTok always want to toy with us, but it ain't gonna right. Every time we're gonna do some dry runs
with TikTok. It's always something. But we gonna get it. We gonna get it.
Yes, we are. Hello, everybody. You guys can hear me? Hi.
Here we go.
That is crazy work.
Okay, flip camera. Here we go. I'm gonna bring it down like that. Oop. And there we go. Okay, there we go. So now they can see you from there. All right, there we go.
Hi, guys.
Because they were hearing you, but that was like nobody can see you. They can hear you, but they can't see you. So I want to make sure.
All right, well, we are here. But I'm gonna be mine alone. We just gonna talk it out, okay?
Right. So so like you were saying, like most families, years ago, income often supported an entire household, and many families owned homes, took vacation, raised their children, and retired on one paycheck. Today, things look so much different. You know what I mean? Even with two incomes, you got to have some side hustles, some overtime, business income. And one of the things that you said that I want to touch back on is you talked about school. Now, one thing about me is I am not big on pushing college on people who are not really wanting to go to college, because I believe that is a bill, and if you ain't serious about it, that's a bill that is just you just don't want to have if you're not serious about it. Because one thing you don't play with is them daggone student loans. They going to come after you no matter what. That's one, that the student loan, child support, and and the IRS, those are things that you can't even file bankruptcy and get rid of those things. So
Mm-mm.
those things you gotta be careful when it comes to playing with those things right there. You gotta make sure that those things is intact. So one question I have for everybody listening right now is, do you think the American dream has changed, or has people expectations changed? Because like you said, the times when you were there, when you were growing up, things would have been different from when you were growing up, from when I were growing up, and now even from when my child is growing up, and then the next generation and next generation is always going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
with it. So I mean, do you feel like right now, I think I feel like so many people kind of feel, some people may feel kind of stuck. What you think about that?
I think they absolutely have to feel stuck because when you just even look at this generationally, right? And to me, everybody, certain people, they run around,
Mm-hmm.
America is great, America is great. What would be great is give everybody opportunity to own something. But see, if you get it, let everybody get on the playing field and everybody begin to own something, then other people feel like, you shouldn't be on my level. But that's not okay to me. I don't understand that mentality. But what I'm seeing happen is that people are being priced out of something basic. That's home ownership. You shouldn't have to be forced to rent. If you want to be a renter, then you should be a renter. But if you want to be a homeowner, then by all means, if you're capable and able, you should be able to own a home. That should be just basics, right? To have
Right.
shelter, especially after you've worked all your life, you've raised your kids. You should have a legacy of something that you could pass down to your kids, right?
Right.
So to me, I think that ought to be just human nature, that we ought to have that. And what I'm seeing now, even out here in Nevada, let's take Nevada for instance. 20
Mm-hmm.
years ago, when I was living in California, I was priced out of the market. I was priced out every time I got a raise. The cost of everything went up, everything was going up. Property in California was just high. I
Mm-hmm.
remember praying about it and asking God, when will the hedge come down? When will I be able to get in? I go to work every day. I had a decent job, a very good job.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for the government for 32 years, so I was getting a steady paycheck, but I was priced. But finally, when I said, God, when will it come down, the hedge? It was unfortunate that other people's downfall in 2008 is what opened the door for me, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people were going into them, those you remember they was doing the trickery, and you
Right.
didn't have to pay your principal, just paying interest. Then
Right.
when the market crashed, that's how I got into a $900,000 5-bedroom 3-bath house for $263,000. It was the grace of God, and it was all of that other corporate trickery that had happened. That's how I got through the door. And over 8 years, that house had accrued over $100,000 in California, and I was able to come out to Vegas. But back then, I wanted to live in Las Vegas because housing, you could get a house in Vegas back in the day for $120,000. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, God, I want to go to Vegas. I want a house. I'll go work for the Air Force instead of the Navy in Monterey. But I never made the move because I got secure and complex, comfortable where I was. But when I came over here, those 20 some years later, in 2018, housing market over here was in the 300,000 range. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I got into my house in 308 or something. That was been a sale deal, and it was built from the ground up. Do you know how much housing is here now in Vegas? It starts at 450. So people that
Mm-hmm.
were born and raised in this town can't even afford to buy a house here. And people that are selling properties in California getting cash, they're
Mm-hmm.
coming here buying houses cash. In the other half of the market, the corporate people are buying up the houses, and then they want people to start leasing them from them. That's
Okay.
that's the trickery. So that's where the housing market is out here. But I'm telling you, I saw my mom pull off something. That's what encouraged me about home ownership versus
Mm-hmm.
rent. Yeah. So
Yeah. So I know some people say, let's be honest, many people, they say, are not lazy. Many people are working extremely hard. So why do so many people with working so hard still feel so stuck? But right now it's because everything costs so much more. you know,
Yeah.
groceries, gas, insurance, housing, like you said, healthcare, even childcare. Um, people may
Minimum
earn
wage is
more.
teenage wages. Minimum wage is for a child, not
Right.
grown folks with children. That's just my
Exactly.
opinion.
And that's right. And that's what I'm saying. Like with groceries and stuff being so high, gas prices being so high, and you have some people who do have children, and then they can't even get their children, like when it comes to the two parent homes, even, or even if they don't have two parents, sometimes they have to have one person stay home because childcare is so expensive that they can't afford to have two people working and doing childcare. So it just becomes a little fishy, even with that, you know, with the childcare.
It
So
is. It's a
I'm just
scam.
saying,
It's
and
a
then it's
scam.
like it's crazy because we earn more now than what was back in the day, but we're stretching ourselves so far with the income that we are earning. So you got, even with your debts, credit card debts, student loan debts, car notes, personal loans. Then you got all your utilities. You know what I mean? Electric,
Utilities.
water, gas, um,
Girl.
everything you got going on. So it's like so many people aren't broke because they don't make money. They broke because every dollar is already going somewhere to another destination. So
It's
the
out. It's
lifestyle
coming out.
inflation is just like, you know, as income increases, expansions, expenses is increasing too. Then you have your, like I said, you have, then now another thing that's hitting us these days is subscriptions. You know, like every time you turn around is a new subscription that you're paying for. And so
Oh, girl.
so it's like you spending more money. So let me ask this question. What's hurting people more right now? Not making enough money or poor money management?
I think it's a combination of both. Because not making more money, I'm telling you, I'm telling you that is a scam within itself. When I sit
Mhm,
here and think about the Congress and the people that make decisions about what a minimum wage ought to be, their
mhm,
asses ought to be stripped down to living these wages that you're paying somebody else, especially
right.
since you can't even pay a bill and do your job. But the minimum wage in this country is a disgrace. And then the people that are legislating, they making 179 or $189,000 a year, and the average person is barely making 40,000. I mean, that's a feat within itself. If you can make less than $80,000 and you have children and you still managing,
Mhm,
that's amazing to me. My hats go off to you. I was a single woman living in California, and at the time of my retirement, I think I was making $42 an hour. And I'm
mhm,
still thinking in my head, I couldn't afford to have kids. I had enough to pay my bills, pay my car note, my insurance, and I took a cruise every now and again. And
mhm.
I ate good. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't eating cat food, okay? But
Right.
it was crazy to me that and I'm just looking at this for people that's making 10 $15 an hour. At the time, California was paying $15 an hour. Like that was some prize.
Mhm,
$15 an hour. To me, the minimum wage ought to be 25. So if you work at 8 hours a day, at least you making $200 a day. That's
right.
before they tax you. That ought to be the minimum. Then
Mhm,
they start all this, oh, the companies can't cover. No, the billionaires are doing just damn fine. But
mhm.
that's the mentality they got us trapped in, and driving the jobs and working 8 to 10 hours a day, and you can't spend no time with your family, can't afford nothing. That is criminal to me. And I
Mhm.
look at that like that's crazy. But okay, the mismanagement could come in because then you just got to decide. You're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. Is Mary going to get paid this month? Do I buy my medication or do I buy food? You know what I
Right.
mean? Some people are in that position, and that just hurts my heart. And this government can give away so much. We can give billions to dictators and money to criminals, and yet and still there's veterans out here in Las Vegas living under bridges. But you
Mhm.
can't buy them no mobile homes and modular homes to put them in and
Right.
give them transportation and food to the elderly.
Mhm.
Girl, sometimes I think I should have went into politics. Yeah, because it's some stuff would be different. And I'm
Right.
trying to, just watch my mouth, but I just get so angry. at the way that people are treated, and then their children involved. You're going to take people health care, the daycare, Medicare, the food stamps. I just saw an 81-year-old lady worked all her life. They cut her food stamps from $2.69 to $25. Then she did an appeal, and she living in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow.
She did an appeal on them cutting her food stamps. And do you know they cut it again from $25 to $12.50?
And what she
and people are donating her food to live. So she started selling her jewelry.
Oh, wow.
She said, I'm selling my jewelry. The young man asked her, what you going to do when you run out of jewelry? She said, I didn't even think about it, but I'm just happy to be sitting in my apartment, being able to talk to you. 81 years old, done worked all her life. And she living off her Social Security, but they based her Social Security cut on the money. They cut the food stamps and did that to her. So wow. I'm sitting up here shaking my head, but like you say, you better get another plan, because I'm retired. My husband retired, but I just told him the other day, too much of our stuff is connected to the government. And I don't trust the situation. So we got to be right. Coming home. That's why entrepreneurship. You better have another plan.
Yes, facts.
That's my opinion.
Like, here's another thing. Is one income enough anymore?
Hell to the no.
So many families survived on one income, but today many people are driving Uber, creating content, selling online, starting business, investing, and freelancing. The average millionaire typically has multiple streams of income. So should every adult have at least 2 sources of income? Why or why not?
I say absolutely. You better have 2, if not 3. And I feel for people, like you say, they have to spread their time so thin. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop talking so loud. I get excited. I feel for parents that have to spread their time. They want to spend time with their children. They want to spend time with their spouses. They try to take their kids to activities. These activities cost money. Everything that used to be an opportunity or that could be community-based or free, those days are gone. They don't even have summer programs, or do they still? I know we used to have summer jobs. There was summer outlets and camps and stuff, but everything now is a cost. But I think you got to have another plan. And remember, I told you, girl, during the pandemic, you know, your sister friend over here was a shopaholic. I was over here Netflixing and chilling and shopping, okay? But honey, all of this stuff and them racks of clothes, I'm gonna drop that on a thing soon too. But it's called Vinted, girl. Vinted, Vinted. Girl, you can just sell stuff with no seller fees, and then you just ship it to the people. Honey, them clothes out here getting ready to get up out of here, because I'm gonna make some money with them. I'm not wearing these things. You know, I got stuff, you know. Hey, but honey, this stuff is finna go, and that's another source of income.
Right.
You know, you my accountant. You know, I got to get.
Now, what about, do y'all have Nextdoor where you're at?
I think they do, but I never have really got on it.
Okay, because that's
your neighbors.
Outlet. Yeah, with the neighbors. So that's another outlet. Like if you're going to sell locally, you can use like the Nextdoor app. Like say if you want to do a yard sale, if you want to do stuff where you want people in the community to come out to, you can go on the Nextdoor app and be able to connect with people in your actual area. So that's a really good app when you want to sell things locally. But I just say, as entrepreneurs, we understand this. You know what I mean? Many business owners learned that relying on one source of income is risky. Like you got to have multiple streams of income in order for you to survive. You cannot just rely on one source of income. And I am very big on, I'm never going to sit back and say, talking negative about jobs, because everybody has to, we all started off with jobs. You want to have, there's some people, they need a job, because some people, if they do come off their job, they may not be able, depend on their situation and what type of work they're doing. They may still need the insurance, or, there's certain things on why people still, and then some people just love what they do. So they really want to their job because they truly love what they do. So it's not to say don't have a job, but I always just say, always have something else that you like doing on the side. Don't do something just because it's for the money. Do something that you like to do, because then you're actually going to continue doing it. Because a lot of times what people do is they actually will they will start a business, and when they start the business, they'll do the business for a little bit, but then once they do the business for a little bit, they'll then say they don't want to do it, and it's because they're not really interested in it. They was just watching these TikTok videos or watching these online ads or online this and online that, and then they realized, hey, this is not something that I really want to do, so then they end up saying, I don't want to do this no more. And so that's why I always say, find something that you truly are passionate about when it comes to a second income, and then that on the side. Don't just do anything, because then you're not going to feel like it's hard work, or it's not going to feel like another job. Because people, when they go to work, especially if you do have a job, you don't want to come off and be like, I gotta go on another job. Like, you really want to, you want to do something that you like, something that you can be doing when you're not when you're not, you can be watching TV doing a job, depending on what it is, or you can be just doing it on your, like I was telling my daughter, she had wanted to do lashes. And so I was like, okay, you like doing that, get your certification in it and do that on the side. So when you need extra money, that's a hustle that you can do. So I always say, focus on something that you like. If you like writing, write on the side, write a book, or write a pamphlet, or do a guide teaching people. Just
what, Nisa?
Things to do out here.
But Nisa, you're hitting the nail on the head, because I remember hearing that when I was really even young, that if you follow your passion, even as you're picking your career and as well as a side hustle or an entrepreneurship business, if you do something that you're passionate about, that you love, you will never work another day in your life, because you will be doing what you truly love. And at this age and stage of my game, girl, I'm going to start working with the ACS, the American Cancer Society, because I'm a survivor. But that would be perfect for me. And I'm going to start off in a volunteer role, and then I'm going to see if it can transition into a permanent role, because that's what I love, encouraging women and walking them through this challenge and letting them know cancer ain't unto death. But I would love to do that. I love to lift women. So that's the place I need to be in, speaking. I'm a chatty Gappy, y'all can tell. So you know what I mean? Chatty Gappy.
Passionate about, because that's something that you went through. So again, what I say, if you went through something and you got the strength for that, focus on that. Like, I just say, don't get into something that is not something that is really, like, that's something that you're passionate about. You know what I mean? Like, you're a survivor. You are someone who went through the storm and came out of it. And there's so many people who may be going through the storm and don't think they can, but because they hear from you, they can say, you done went through it 3 times. So you are inspiration to me. So that's just something like, and everybody has and one thing I've learned is everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. Like, everybody's story is never going to be the same. Everybody's situation, like, you might be somebody who went from job to job. You might have experienced that. You might have experienced layoffs. You might experience divorces. You might experience, things with kids, or you might experience not being able to have them. You might experience, all different types of things that people may go through. Can really help someone else come out of a situation. And people don't realize that your testimony can really help somebody else. And that's also a way of helping somebody and making money in that field as well, because that's another way that you can actually have an income off of your story.
And let's park the car right there for a minute, because the same thing we're talking about, without a test, there's no testimony, right? But here we need to give a plug in for you right now, because as the awesome businesswoman that you are, they need to be directed. You need to drop a plug right there to let people know when they're looking to get their businesses started, when they're looking to establish them in a correct order, they need to come to you. Put a plug in here for the business right now and help the people get established. Let's just take a time out, park the car right here, because they need to know that you are there. I'm telling you, This queen is not only my sister, honey, she's my accountant, she's my business advisor. And we need to always have somebody, because if you don't know, you need to reach out to someone who does. Right. That'll save you so much time. You don't have to hit your head against the brick wall and be bleeding. We're not trying to do none of that. Right. So tell them how they can reach you, sweetie.
One thing, because I had somebody contact me a week ago, and we was talking, and I want people to understand certain things too when it comes to business. There are certain types of businesses that are out there. You have your S corporation, you have a C corporation, you also have your LLCs, and then you are sole proprietor. And when somebody had called me on the phone and they was talking, but at the time, sometimes I'm one of the type of people that I listen and I don't respond a lot of times, all the time, because sometimes for me, no response is the best response when it comes to certain situations, because sometimes some people feel like they just got all the answers. So I don't say too much. So I just be like, okay, I'll just listen. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, it is what it is. But there are a lot of people who, like you said, when it comes to different businesses, one business that I know a lot of people can do, and that's something that I also have, and that's being a notary. Now, what this person was telling me, like when you're going through business, and what this person was stating was that in a business, as a notary, even if you're not a lawyer, that paper that you're notarizing is not legitimate. Like, it doesn't hold value. That is absolutely incorrect. That holds value because we take an oath as a notary. So if you are looking into being a notary, that is something that you have to go, get sworn in and everything with your
legal.
When it comes to that. If you do a contract with me, if I sign off on something as a notary, that can be taken to court, and you will be, regardless of what the situation is. Now, if it comes to business, now this is what people don't understand, especially when it comes to an S corporation. As an S corporation, you file 1120 S return. So with that return, you are actually going to have K1s that come along with that tax return. So not only is the document that you sign going to be legal, but also the proof that you are in a partnership is going to be the fact that you filed those tax returns, and it shows that you have those K1s on there. So those 50-50 on those K1s is also proof of partnership. And if it's so, depending on what your percentages is, if you went 50-50, if you went 75-25, whatever it is, that is also showing proof of that property, of that business as well. And I just wanted to throw that out there because somebody had mentioned that. And like I said, sometimes I don't always speak on certain things because I just be like, sometimes they say it's best to stay silent.
No, not in this case. No.
Because you don't want to feel like you going back and forth with people, so you just be like, okay, listen. But then keep your mouth closed, just listen.
but see, look at this. Right now, though, in this setting in which we're in, that's information that the average bear don't know. That we have no idea. You dropping gems and letting us know. And when I first started, that was my mission. I wanted women to be encouraged to start their own businesses and get legaled up and do what they need to do. But my thing has since shifted through the speaking side of the house. And then where me and you connected, I know this is your forte. Everybody, my YouTubers, my Instagram followers, I will be directing all 3,000 of them, all 1,080 of them to you because you have that knowledge, and it's just like that. And I've seen it in motion.
And that's another thing. Be careful too when you're dealing with people, especially when it comes to lawyers. Because one thing that I've learned in these past few years with dealing with different situations with people is that sometimes a lawyer, you have to really do your homework on who you're getting. Because sometimes a lawyer can feed you a lot of juice and make you feel like they can do the world for you and then try to put down everything that was kind of done just because they want to get your business and they want your money, because they're looking at the dollar signs. They really care too many craps about you, because they're just really about the money, a lot of them, you know what I mean? So and we just keep it 100. We just want to keep it a buck, you know what I mean? Like, they really
be sure people legitimate,
right? And not only that, like, some of them really don't care about your situation. They just want to know how much they're going to get paid at the end of it. That's why if you ever went to a lawyer they're going to look at your case to see what the end result is going to be sometimes before they even take the case. So if you ever notice, like they'll say, "Oh, I can't take that case," and it's because it's not enough money in it for them. You see,
That's true.
you got to be
That's
so
true.
careful when it comes to who you're connecting with, especially when it comes to legal battles, because sometimes people will get in your ears and they will give you, "Oh, I can do this and I can do that and I can this and I can that." And I remember going through a situation where I went with somebody and we went through this was actually an accident case. And the lawyer was, "I could do this." He was telling us all the stuff he can do and how we was going to get this and it ain't happened the way it was supposed to happen. However, we kind of the situation, he got screwed in the end, but it's because we just thought the person had our best interest because we're like, well, he worked for us. And that's how we look. A lot of times when we look at it, we like, they work for us. But in actuality, you don't know. And sometimes they can be setups too when it comes to certain things like with cases and stuff, because they can have a hookup with the doctors. They can have a hookup, you know what I mean? So it's like you getting money on the back end on other sides of your case and things. So you just gotta
be careful.
Breaking moment, like they had nothing to do with our segment, but I just wanted to break that out.
I know. I just had to share that, but tell them your website where they come talk to you. They need to see you.
Y'all can get with me at ubellc.net, ubellc.net. But that was just something I had to throw in there because that was just kind of like in my spirit at the moment. I just wanted to put that out there. But we're going to jump into our next segment, which is AI is changing the rules. So whether we like it or not, AI is here. Some people see opportunity, others see danger. Let's discuss both, because AI is helping with marketing, accounting, customer service, content creation, research, scheduling. The biggest threat that may not be for AI, I would say the biggest threat is refusing to learn how to use it. If you do not learn how to use it, that is going to be the biggest threat. And I say that because right now, like I went to my daughter's, and in Atlanta, they have, I think they call Wayman or whatever those things are, the cars that drive by themselves.
Oh, yeah.
It's like now they even talking about getting trucks that drive by themselves, the big trucks. Then you got warehouse workers that are getting those jobs is starting to go. You got people working in fast food places, and you got, look at Walmart. How many times do you go in there and you don't really see people at a register no more because everybody is self-checkout? When you go to the grocery stores, all these different things is becoming so computerized where they're
automated.
Right. And so it's like with everything that we're doing, we always have to keep learning, because if we don't keep learning, you could miss out on some things. Like remember what Elon Musk during the election? One of the things that he was talking about was the robots that he had. That was $30,000. You think about that. If I'm paying somebody $30,000 one time, and this person is working for me forever, doing all the tasks that I have to pay somebody $30,000 a year to do, what you think the person going to want to do? They're going to want to go with that robot that can pay $30,000 at one time and then get rid of that body. But now don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying that it's going to eliminate everybody's job, but there are a lot of things that you need to learn with AI, because there are now, most companies now are starting to ask in interviews, how are you, what skill sets that do you have when it comes to AI, because of the fact that there are so many tools and things that's out here that can even make your job go faster. So you got to know something about it. So would you trust AI to help you run your business?
I absolutely would. Oh, thank you, babe. I absolutely would. And I got it on two levels, right? Okay. The young lady, Monique Hinton, that I follow, once when the AI first was really getting hot and heated up, Monique is a saved young lady. She has a relationship with God. So she was saying how a lot of Christians were saying they were afraid of AI and they're not going to deal with it. And AI is of the devil. But she had a good analogy. Let me share this. She said, okay, some things that could be meant for good and some things could be used for evil. Now, if you're at a restaurant and you have a table setting and you got a steak knife and you got a fork on the table, either you could use that steak knife and that fork to cut your meat and you're going to cut the food, you're going to eat the steak.
Mm.
Or if you some deranged individual that got some evil in your spirit, you could take that steak knife and just start stabbing at your neighbor, right? So
Mm.
it depends on what your mindset is about, how you could utilize the thing. And what I come to find out and understand and realize at my ripe young age of 63 is that AI can be a tool that can better you in the workforce, even in your personal life.
Mm.
Because, honey, me and my little chat GPT friend Nisi, honey, we be getting down. We be writing some letters. We be getting some stuff together. And then even when I have to send something over to my attorneys, I will gin it up using Chat GP, explaining to the chat what I'm trying to express, and
Mhm.
chat will gin up a letter, and then I send it over to my lawyer. And 9 times out of 10, they not even changing what I've submitted to them.
Mm.
So I'm just saying, I know they told the kids you can't be, trying to cheat and use it for your schooling, but some things educationally, I have went in there and asked it about historical facts.
Mhm.
Things that reality in these schools that have plotted and didn't want us to understand about our history. Oh,
Mhm.
I've asked questions about it. And
Mhm.
then I asked, what can we do as people to make a change and a difference? And it'll come back and tell you, I can't tell you to rebel, but I can share this. But you have a conversation if you're using it properly. You always giving me good prompts. We're
Mhm.
always talking about how you could utilize it for your benefit.
Mhm.
Utilize it to enhance your work skills. And like as I say, if when I start getting my speaking engagements, I'm going to ask that corporation, what do you want me to come speak on? I will
Mhm.
come with my knowledge, but if I can gain more knowledge and then incorporate that into what I'm doing, I'm going to do that. Why would I work harder and not smarter?
Right.
That's how I see it. And I don't look at it, I would not be in fear of it, but I would use it as an enhancement. Just
Mhm.
like I do with a little makeup, honey. Put a little powder on your face. It'll enhance you, okay? Put a little gloss on. You be enhanced, but I'm not afraid of it. Don't be in fear because, honey, that system can help you make some money, build some business, and
Mhm.
do things smarter and not harder. Does that
Right.
make sense?
That's very makes sense because that's even how I have the lead stacker. Because I'm like, not only is that is help with some, depending on what systems you get, you can save money in other places. Like I got that because of the fact that not only do I have it that I can have it answer phone calls for me, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about always taking all these calls and messages. But I also like the fact that they keep everything. So if you send me something on social media, if you send me a text message, if you send me a phone call, all of it is now placed in your name under one housing. So now I can see everything and under your name,
Yeah.
like whatever, even if it was different things, whether it was an email, a text message, a social media comment, whatever. Now all of this is under you. So I can always go right back to whatever and be able to have that information. Not only that, it gives you time where you don't have to be so hands-on with every single thing. Like,
That's a game
so
changer.
especially when you're a single entrepreneur and you're working by yourself until you get to the point where you can have other people working with you, you need that help where you can have those different tools to be able to, do certain things for you that you may not be able to get all things done, you know,
Yeah.
by yourself. So I said that is really, a really good tool for some people. Because like I said, that lead stacker not only helped me with the time, but it also helped me with saving money because like I said, it has a calendar in there. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to really, I have the calendar. You have your payments if you collecting money
All of
from
that.
people, so you can do your payments and stuff there. You can do, people out here they have school these days where you can have a little membership platform in there. You can, make your posts to all your social media platforms. You can do your pictures. You can do all these things straight through one platform and play one price. So there's a lot of tools out there, but I like that because of those things. Now, another question someone asked is, are we teaching the wrong things? And this is a little controversial because it said many students graduate knowing algebra, history, and science, but don't know credit, taxes, investing,
Oh,
business,
glory.
retirement planning. So let me ask y'all, how many of you learned financial literacy in school? If you did, put that in the chat. And then another thing is, how many had to learn everything the hard way? And should financial education be required before graduating? Now, one thing that I love that Clark has done is they actually has connected with what's his name? John I can't think of his last name right at this present moment, but he's connected with Clark Atlanta. And what he is doing right now is he's actually teaching. Now they have it as a requirement inside of their school where they're actually now coming in as freshmen to learn financial literacy.
Praise God.
So I'm like, that is really a good, like, people don't like some, of course, the kids don't really understand that now because they're like, oh, especially if you're a person who like you're not really into math and all that kind of stuff. So you're like, I don't really care about that. But John Hope Bryan, that's his name. And he actually started a program at the school. So now him and I think what's his name? Killer Mike, they're doing the pro thing together. And they have it. So now the schools are now having that where that's a requirement going into their freshman semesters. And I think that's really good. But a lot of people don't know that. And that's why I'm like, that's really good to know, because you have grown people who got bad credit and don't know about how
to get out.
You got people who are grown who don't really know nothing about taxes. You got people who are grown who don't know too much about investing. You got people who are grown that don't know much about business ownership or retirement. And so I've seen people where I have talked to people who are business owners and they have never done a payroll for themselves. They don't even pay quarterly, but however, they wait to the final hour to do their taxes because they always like, I know I'm going to owe, because they are business owners. However, that's messing them up. But the thing that they didn't know is if you do a payroll for yourself, now you're still paying into Social Security and Medicaid. So now when you go trying to collect on that Social Security, you actually got some money there because you're giving yourself a payroll. But if you just go on not working and for anyone where you're getting a W-2 and you're working on your own, you don't have that. You know what I mean? So then you're losing out on putting in money into Social Security and Medicaid. So when it comes time for you to get it, there's nothing there. Then you have those. So you have the other ones who will, when it comes to the retirement plans, just like we was talking to the guy, like a lot of times people think you just can only deal with stuff when you have a job with the 401 and all that, but they have solo 401k for entrepreneurs. So there, and then also the SEP account. So you have those as also for, when it comes to entrepreneurs as well. So there's different things that are out there when it comes to investment, retirement, and taxes and things. And in this day and age, we should all be looking for 700 plus credit scores at this day and age, because one thing I always say is if your credit is good, you can always have access to money.
And you know what else, Nisi? When you just said this about do we feel like the financial situation ought to be in school? I think it ought to be happening from the time that you are in high school, from your freshman year. And then if you ready by time freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, by the time you going into college, then that would be a perfect another program, because you would be on the advanced financial level then. You would really be cooking. But what I found out is that when and because I was born in baby apartheid in St. Louis, Missouri. So what I found out at an early age, just by being a cheerleader, when we would go from an inner city school to a county school, it was like you were in an elementary school versus a college, right? Their facilities, everything. And I just heard this lady say the other day, a county school district can get $23 million in a year for their education. We over here fighting over trying to hope we got a new book, right? But the fact of the matter was, I was on an honor roll system, and I'm in here typing 1, 2, 3, and 4. No, typing 1, 2, 3. Last year I had shorthand. Ask me, have I ever used shorthand in my life? Only thing I remember is the W and the line that was with, okay? Because I didn't use it. And then my math was advanced math was algebra 1, 2, and then 3, and then trigonometry. I didn't need no damn trigonometry. I would have rather had investments. You could have given me investments, 401k, 101. You know what I mean? But unless you're going to be a doctor, a scientist, you don't need that kind of math. In my opinion, because I never used it. And then I'm like, I ended up graduating early. And then I'm just like, I look back on them times now, they wasn't teaching me anything financial, nothing. I had a lot of advanced sciences, biology, trig, advanced history that wasn't even real. You done wrote my history and my ancestors out of it. It was just nuts. But that's how they have the game rigged. Because if we understand, then you could be on the playing field then. That's why I say parents need to teach your children financial literacy, and you need to teach them about their history so that they can respect themselves and others. And we can know from whence we come. But if we don't, honey, it's not going to be taught. And I think it needs to start fresh. It could be 8th grade.
Right.
You could have been teaching me about how to do a checkbook because that was my first job. Once I was 14, y'all was 14 in the 8th grade. And my mother had to teach me about going to a bank, open a bank account, and how to write a check. You had some people in high school that didn't know how to fill out a check. That's basic.
Right.
And how to calculate with a checkbook.
Yeah,
So some stuff, I think that's a fabulous program, but it needs to start at an earlier age, if you ask me, because the other folks they're teaching their children early on.
Right. And that's so true because, we are not sitting down and doing that. And it's so funny you said that because I was watching, I don't know if you ever watched that show called Dutton Ranch. It was like, it's a spinoff from Yellowstone. Spinoff from Yellowstone.
Okay. And the West, okay.
And so with that, they actually, his boy that was in school, he was like talking about algebra. And he was like, I don't need this. This is annoying. That's when she broke it down on how he actually do off of the stuff that he has to be able to put in when they're doing their inventory and different things for the farm. And so
crops. Okay.
Right. So she was like,
chemicals.
Okay. So she was like, you need this for that. But like people don't really think about what it is that they need it for. Like we actually do use algebra. If you think about it. We do, because if you say for instance, if you go to the store, before you go to the store, you're at home, right? And say you're like, okay, I got you could be, we all do it. I got $50.
With the formulas, okay, you got all the formulas.
I got $50 in my pocketbook, right? And I gotta go to the store. I gotta figure out what items I need the most of. That's gonna be $50 or less because I only got $50 in my pocketbook. That's algebra. You see what I'm saying? So you adding up what you're going to get from the store to make sure that it's not going to go above that $50 that you got in your pocketbook. So that's, you know what I mean? So
wait, you know what? That's cute though. But you know what? I just saw a man that had his little boy in the store like that. He was teaching him the value of $1. That's how he was doing it. He gave him $40 and told him to go through here and get everything you want, right? And the little boy was getting stuff. Some stuff was expensive or more than this or more than that. He telling me, he said, okay, now if you get that, you'll be going over. You're going to have to put something back. Right. You're going to have to do this. But that was cool because that started make him think about what is the value of this? Do I really want this whole box of chips or am I just going to go get this piece of fruit? He wanted some stuff that was more expensive than other. I thought that was a good life lesson because it was teaching him the value. You just can't throw everything in the buggy and it's going to all be fine at the register. But he did it so good. He came in under like 83 cents.
Good. That was good.
But he spent that money. That was a lesson.
Yeah, that's good. I say that's even good for even when you taking your kids. I think that a lot of times as parents, we mess up too with this because we be wanting our kids to have everything. And then you start teaching them young about names and name brands and things and all that. And it's like, okay, but do you really financially have the money to get these things? Is this
and then they throw it fits and they can't get it and they want to kill you in your sleep.
Right. Is this going to put you in a financial bond? Is it really worth having some of the things that you made? And these are certain things that, and especially in our communities, that I think that we're not as good with when it comes to those type of things because of the fact that we're so big on material things. Like we want to have cars, we want to have the nice clothes, we want to have the nice shoes, we want to have the nice bed.
Earn it.
We get stuck on what our neighbors and what our peers have, and then we want to have that same thing. So we then start putting ourselves in financial situations because we want to be with the Joneses, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I think that's where a lot of times we fail at when it comes to finances, because we are not spending it wisely. And so that's the thing that we also need, because if you really look at the people who really making money, you don't see them out rocking a very, very expensive, flashy stuff. They stay very low key. And then one of the things that I watch with them is if you ever pay attention to them, they stay in very bland colors like tan, white, like and those, even though they're right, and they just very bland, they don't be so flashy. We're more of the flashy, where we're still gotta be this and that. And
we like our bland.
And look at Jay-Z. Remember back in the day when he was rapping? Remember he was all like he even talked about that. He was like, back in the day, it was all, you talking about your change, you're talking about this, you're talking about that, all the flashy stuff. And then once he started getting in, once he got into a different status in his money, when he was going into billionaire, that you ain't see him rocking big old chains and wearing all this extra stuff that he was doing. He actually became more low key because he's in a different environment now. So those are things that we also have to think about too when it comes to the environment, in the financial side. But let's just say the American dream, maybe it's not dead. Maybe it's just different, because today's version might be freedom, multiple income streams, entrepreneurship, flexibility, debt freedom, generational wealth. So maybe success isn't about having the biggest house anymore. Maybe success is having options, because back then we didn't, there wasn't as much options back then of the things that we have now. You couldn't say, I'm working from home back then. You had to go somewhere. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's a lot more things that we like. Yeah, things is higher, but we have a lot more options than what we had before. Like, would you rather earn $250,000 a year working 80 hours a week, or would you rather $100,000 a year with flexibility, with freedom and flexibility? What would you take?
I think right now I would say the 100 grand with the flexibility. Because with that flexibility, I could even create more. But then I'm gonna be doing my passion, so I will be good with that. That's how I was
trying to answer that. If y'all on here, that's the question I have for y'all. Would you take $250,000 a year working 80 hours a week, or would you take $100,000 a year with freedom and flexibility? Which one would you do? A, the 250, or B, the 100,000? Which one would you take? Would you rather have the flexibility? Because you figure like these days, let's just think if you are a parent, or not even if you're a parent, let's just think about having a job, like what we talked about before. A lot of times people can't take off of work and do certain things. They can't just leave their job. They got to go to work. So they can't say, oh, I'm going to go and do this in the middle of the day if they got other stuff to take care of, or if they got their child's recital or things that they got to do. They can't just take off. They got to go to work. So would you rather that flexibility with less money, or would you rather the more money and you working working all those hours? Like, which one? I mean, let me start in the comments though, because let's say B, she will take the 100,000 a year with the freedom and flexibility.
I would too, sis.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, because I would rather, like, for me, even now, like, I love the flexibility and the freedom, because I remember I told you that was the whole purpose of me even trying to get into doing a business for myself. Because me moving from Pennsylvania to Georgia. And when I first moved here, I couldn't go to my child's stuff. I always had to send somebody else when she had different things at her school. And I'm like, you don't really want somebody else always being there, just to be there supporting your child when it comes to stuff. You want to experience those moments with your kids on your own.
Yeah.
And you wind up losing out on those experiences all because you got to stay at work. You can't go. You got to go. You got to clock in. You got to clock out. So I'm like, when you don't have that, that is, that was my trap before.
It's difficult. I'm sorry, but imagine, sis, not only that, but when you're in there kicking for 80 hours a week for that 250, you could be in there with some monsters that are hell on wheels, because that's what I dealt with. I was at a racist organization. Let's just call it what it is. and I learned how to navigate my way. I knew my job, so they wasn't gonna run me down to burn me off because I had to get them years. But I got out of there early. I was able to retire at 57 with 32 years. But you got to think, you don't know what kind of monsters you dealing with on that 80 hours job. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of stress and duress. Then you got to go home with the pressure of your family on top of that. Because I was dealing with a sick mom and a white ex-husband. I mean, it was a lot going on.
Right.
But give me $100,000, I can manage that, and I'll manage my time, and I will do what my passion is, what I love to do, and I would not be bothered. But the last thing with the job, I'm telling you, job, insurance, and pension. That's what a part of my dream was, and I got out when it was still a dream. When I still could fulfill that dream, because I wouldn't knock nobody 9 to 5 because it was paying my mortgage. I wouldn't, and when I left up out the government, I left with my insurance. And honey, I'm glad I did, because I done had a $400,000 surgery with this lung, right? And having that insurance covered me, and then to have a pension because I earned it. Did nobody give it to me? They tried to break me about it, but I held on, and when I could leave, I left on my terms. So that's what a job will do. But entrepreneurship and keeping your dream alive, you got to know what it looks like for you. Then you can have that dream. But I believe it's harder now. I believe as a people, as a nation and a country, y'all, because I'll be right with you, need to demand more for your fees. Your services and your goods are worth more than what they are paying people on this minimum wage BS. That's my opinion.
Right.
But
and I agree with you.
9 to 5 can help you.
Exactly. And that's why I say I never go against it. I love that, what you just said. That's real. And it's like what you said, what people should do right now is, number one, know your numbers, your income, expenses, debt, and credit score. Those are your numbers. I'm going to say it again. Know your numbers, your income, your expenses, your debts, and your credit score. Number two, build an emergency fund. Number three, learn financial literacy. Number four, develop another income stream. Number five, learn technology and AI. And number six, invest in yourself. Your skills determine your income determines your options. I'm going to say that one time. Your skills determine your income, and your income determines your options. So with that being said, I want y'all to put in the comments, because I just want to see what kind of answers y'all have. And that is the American dream still alive? Is home ownership still worth it? Should everyone have a side hustle? Has social media helped or hurt society? Is college still worth the cost? Would you encourage your children to start a business? And is AI helping people or replacing people? So those are questions that I want y'all to answer in the comments. And I'm going to actually put those questions in the comments too, so I can just get really responses off of that, because I kind of want to see what people will say when it comes to that. Did you want to say something?
Last thing I want to add, if I can encourage somebody, when I saw my mom buy her first home, my mom was a single mom with 3 daughters. She bought her first home at 44 years young, I think it was. It was before she was 50. But so my mom got her first home. I saw that happen, right? So I look at me. Remember, I was struggling out there in California. I was making good money, but I was renting and praying, right? And when I bought my first house in California, that 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, I was 45 years old, right? I was 45 on my first house. I stayed in that house for 8 years. When I got out of that house and I moved out here to Vegas, when I sold that house and got this house, I bought this house at 55 years young. So I had a new house, a new husband, and a new lease on life. I was working from home for 2 years, and then I retired at 57. So home ownership is possible. Do your research, understand the rules, know that when you buying, honey, sellers can pay your closing costs. Back in the day when I got my first house, Obama then gave out $8,000. Remember, Kamala was trying to get the people $25,000 for a house, but they didn't believe her. But it's possible. Look, see FHA loans where you don't have to pay a big old down payment. Do some research and understand the rules, because at 45 and 55, I'm on my second house. And I believe God gonna give me a third one that got a covered pool. That's my prayer. So
Right.
be encouraged. Be
Right.
encouraged.
And I say that when it comes to houses, I know some people. I actually had this conversation with my cousin over the past week, and she was saying that she wouldn't want a house. Like she's so comfortable with just some people just don't want the responsibilities of a house because when something breaks or if anything go down, some people like I just don't want to have to deal with fixing things in the house, so they would rather just pay rent. However, like I said, but then there's some people, and then there's some people when they're at a certain age, they're like, okay, they may not be able to get into a 30-year mortgage because they may be like, okay, I'm at the age where I ain't going to get to 30. You just never know their situation. So some people just don't want it. But, I always say your home is your asset. When you renting, that's not an asset. That's just to me a liability. And when you have a home, you always can, that's another income that you can have when it comes to your home because that's an asset that you can take from because it builds in value. So again, I say like some people there's different opinions. There's different opinions on it. It just depends on how you feel about it. But I always say if you can be a homeowner, I would rather be a homeowner than a renter because it's more value in being a homeowner than just renting and paying somebody money and they getting rich off of you year by year. But again, like I said, some people that know, but like I say, I don't know too many. I don't know no rich person in this world, and they try to tell people this because they want to keep us in that poor mindset. But I don't know not one rich person who don't own property.
Exactly. But wait, Nisi,
they're posting these videos talking about, oh, you don't need to have a house and you can just rent. No, but they own properties. So
Nisi, and my mortgage is less than what people are paying out here for rent.
Right.
My mortgage, they get a hold of that. My mortgage is what people are paying for rent, less than what people are paying for rent. And at one moment, I'm sitting up here talking about, well, we got all this equity in the house, over 100,000 equity. Maybe we'll just take the equity and we'll go get an apartment. And girl, when I started looking at that, they charge you for amenities. They charge you for this. They charge you for that. All these extra charges that I would be paying to be in a 2-bedroom apartment and give up a 4-bedroom house.
I was just talking to with my dad. Remember, I was saying I'm like for me, I'm like when his wife passed away, and he's at home. I'm like. I just don't, even before she passed, my whole thing is when you're at a certain age and he's at 81, I just don't feel like at that age you should still be sitting there paying a mortgage and paying rent at that age. I think that you should be living your life and living comfortably at that age. Like that's why I was like, for me, I'm trying to set up things for both of my parents because I really want to set it up where as though they're not killing themselves when it comes to the
maintain
to maintain, because I just don't think that is a thing that we should have at 80 something years. You should, like, you got people out here over 80 paying rent and mortgage. Like, I just think that's a lot, especially with us, like,
that's
with the
pressure.
Because even you got some people who have their homes, and that's another thing. You got some people who have their homes paid off, but the taxes on their properties, because they rise, because your value of your property keep rising. And then they still, because of depending on what their income is, and they're at a budget, on a budget, sometimes some people can't even afford to pay the taxes and insurance on your house. You still got to have taxes and insurance on your house. And let's just say you live in somewhere where the taxes say, you know what I mean, maybe like $4,000 for the year or $10,000 for the year. And that's still a monthly. You might have to pay that monthly because you may not have that lump sum that is dropped at once a year. You see what I'm saying? So
that's why estate planning. Mm-hmm. You're right. And see, that's what we got to look at for estate plan. That's why we finna put our house in a trust. Because if anything happened to us, either one of us or both of us, that house will be in a trust and the executor will deal with that as we saw fit. So whoever we put in there to get it, y'all can come in here and take over this. The mortgage is locked. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, or you can sell it. But it ain't going no foreclosure court. It ain't going to no what's the mother that court, the probation. My probate ain't gonna be tied up in no probation. So that's what we got to get smart too about estate planning and looking ahead. But before I go move into a 2-bedroom apartment and give up this 4-bedroom house that my husband growing a little garden out there with the sunflowers, honey, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. And paying building fees and amenities to use the this and the that and the other, I don't think so. But that's what works for me. But if somebody is comfortable in their apartment, then God bless you. But them apartments them fees going up every year.
My mama said that, like hers
$2,000
going up every time you turn around. It's going up, and it's not. To me, I feel like they're not doing that much to the places where these prices need to be going up. And you got to think about it. Just $4,000 for a year. Let's just say your taxes are only $4,000. That's a lot of people paying way more than that. At just $4,000, that's still $333 a month if you broke it up into 12 payments.
Some people pay that out here a month, 2 months.
You talk about living on just a senior Social Security check, and and you might not have, you still got to pay insurance, you still got to pay utilities. Some people just depend on what they get, and you got people who may only be getting an $800 or $700, not even $1,000 check. So it's just a struggle.
But you got family
that's really sit down and put these things, and that's why I'm like so adamant about certain things. Now I know some people will look at things that sometimes when it comes to situations, people may look at it as you trying to tell them what to do or trying to take over in different type of situations, but it's not that. It's about making somebody's life comfortable.
I know I did it. I know where you at.
You got to be able to have that mindset. And so right. And I say for anybody, I don't care who you are, I would love for everybody. 1436, are you sick? That's just too much. Like I said, it's just a lot where when it comes to people in their, when it comes to finances. And I just think that, I just wish that things wasn't so. I hope things begin to go down soon. I'm not sure how the rent will work about it going down, because I know after a certain amount of years of this high climbing of the values going up, I know it's going to come back. And it's going to come, and I think it may have to actually come down once Trump come out of office, because it always happens where if you notice it will go up and then it will come back down a little bit. Because even yesterday I got my tax thing in the mail, and it wasn't a whole lot that it went down, but I think it went down like maybe like $300 difference than what it was last year.
For your property tax
with the value of the property. So that's why I said, so I think eventually, like, because it always seems like with the changes of the presidency too, and depending on what's going on, I think that has a lot of times to do with it, with the pricing and things and what's going on in the world at that time. And so when I see it go up, just like when Bush was in, then we had Obama come in, and then you see how it went down, but then after he left, it went up, and then it went up again. And that's why I said I got a feeling we're going to go back down again, because we already starting to come down a little bit. So I think it may do that, within that time, but I'm hoping that it do.
I do too, because it's like it's a scam going on out here, that they in every corner you see they building a new apartment complex, another apartment complex, but the rents are so high that people can't afford to move in. Then
why do they ask people to have 3 times the rent to move in? So if you got 3 times the rent, why you ain't buying a house? Like, why would
so they locking up the money? They just gonna lock you in
3 times the rent. I'm like, and this rent, you got people paying almost $1,500 a month for rent. It's some people.
But they don't make a business,
and you talking
about business
3 times the rent. I'm like, people don't. If they had that, they wouldn't be looking to
It is so scary.
It's crazy.
I never heard of this foolishness where they letting the corporations buy up a whole division. Like said D.R. Horton or whatever them other ones are. They built the complex, right? But the corporation come and buy the whole community, and you have to rent the house from them. So now it's just a whole plot.
Well, that's what they're doing out here. A lot of investors. So it's a lot of investors, right? But
keeping you from owning it.
But he actually
still don't own it
right now, Trump, and that's where he has it.
That's crazy.
He has a lot of these billionaires and different people where they are
And
buying up a lot of these properties and things.
That's
And
crazy.
he's even trying to take away the the gifts that was like when it came to like having the where you can get help with your mortgage if you couldn't make a payment. He's trying to do away with all those FHA things. I don't know if he's going to be able to get approved with it, but hopefully he don't because that would mess people up. But
Even more, yeah, because
he's
that
trying
helped
to,
me.
but he because the thing is he wants people to lose them that don't have the money like that, so these billionaires and millionaires can
Can
step in
keep buying them.
and invest, get these investments, have all these investment properties, and now they getting rent. So now they again getting $1,500 because you figure if somebody paying $1,500, you gotta go in with 3 times the rent. That's $4,500
That's crazy.
off the rent, and then you
That's
still
crazy.
every month plus utilities, electric,
My
water.
mortgage is 16.
Right.
Can you imagine? I just cannot. I thought that was high back in the day when I was in Cal. I got into apartment complex early, and my rent for a 2-bedroom was like $650, and I had a garage, but I was locked in. I lived there 14 years. By the time I moved, the new people moving in was paying $950, right? That was crazy. And then I look at this now, how blessed I am. My mortgage is $1,650 for a 4-bedroom house. And so it just depends on what it is, what you need. Pray about it, do your research, and move when God say move.
Right.
Because just get in and do it. But God slapped me around and said, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Thinking about an apartment and my mortgage is $1,650. You ain't going nowhere until God say move." And he said, "Be still." I was looking at Thailand. I ain't going nobody's Thailand. I'm gonna be right. Okay, I ain't going nowhere. No.
All right, y'all. So y'all heard it right here. Y'all heard Miss Day. Like y'all heard us what we talking about. And tonight's conversation proves one thing: that the American dream isn't dead, but it definitely doesn't look the way it did 20 and 30 years ago. The rules have changed, technology has changed, economy has changed, opportunities have changed. And if we want different rules, we have to be willing to adapt. Success today isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter, learning new skills, creating opportunities, building multiple streams of income, and positioning yourselves for future instead of holding on to the past. I want to say thank y'all for joining on with us tonight on Talk It Out with D&D. If this conversation made you think, laugh, or challenge your perspective, make sure you like, follow, share, and subscribe. And remember, your current situation does not determine your final destination. So keep growing, keep learning, keep believing, because no matter where you start, as I always say, it's possible. And y'all, I'm about to be putting those shirts out there with my "it's possible" because I'm putting a stamp on that. But good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week on Talk It Out with D&D. So y'all all have a nice night and enjoy your weekend and be safe.